If the Terps want to win, they need to run Billy Edwards more.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And I'm also video content creator over at InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys go over to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. They provide all types of stuff, Maryland basketball recruiting, Maryland football recruiting, all the different things you need. Head over to InsideBlackandGold.net. I think me and a lot of other Terps fans feel the same way about Billy Edwards rushing the football. I don't get why we're not doing more of it. I don't get it at all. When you have a strength of a player, you don't take that away and try and make him into someone else. You don't do it. And this is my biggest, one of my biggest things that I have not liked about this year. I think that they have taken Billy Edwards' biggest strength away and said, here, play without your biggest strength. We're not going to game plan towards it. If you want to use it a little bit, you can use it, but it's not going to be something that's in the game plan nearly as much. And that's running the ball with Billy Edwards. Billy Edwards has been such a good rusher of the football in the past for Maryland football before this year. That's what he was known for. Don't forget, Michigan, he came in last year against Michigan in a really close back and forth game, a game that I thought we had a real opportunity to win that game and beat the team that went ahead and won the national championship, a team that was the best team in the country in Michigan. We put up almost as good of a fight as just about anybody in the country outside of maybe one or two teams, maybe outside of Ohio State and Alabama. But we played a really close game against Michigan, and a big part of that was because of Billy Edwards as a rusher and what he was able to do. And he was able to rush the ball 3 times for 3 touchdowns, which really helped us last year beat Michigan, and he was really good in short yardage. If you look at the Music City Bowl game, last year where Billy Edwards got the start, his legs is how he was able to win offensive MVP. His legs were the reason that Maryland looked really good, I thought. And Billy Edwards, a lot of people went to him and said, he looks really good. He looked pretty good. And a lot of us read through it a little bit and we're like, I don't know if we're convinced about that performance because his stat line didn't look great, but the running stats were great. 13 carries against Auburn for 50 yards and a touchdown. And people weren't talking about that. He only threw the ball 6 of 20, so his percentage is really down. So what is that, 30%? Yeah, it's 30% throwing the football against Auburn in the Music City Bowl game. And I know I'm going back a little bit, but I do think it's kind of important to mention this, to talk about the fact that Maryland hasn't been able to rush Billy Edwards very much at all this year. And it's something that I think is important to try and do. Now, the thing that is weird about rushing yards in college football, it's annoying because when I look at the stats, it includes the sack yardage, so it kind of messes up the numbers. But it shows you that he hasn't really rushed the ball very much this year. Besides UConn, where it says 5 carries for 39 yards. Outside of that, not a whole lot going on in terms of Billy Edwards rushing the football. And him as a player, that's his biggest strength still to this day, I believe. And I don't understand why we don't do it more. And if we want to be better, if we want to win games, and if we want to push ourselves to a bowl game, I think Billy Edwards has to rush the football more. I think there's no other way around it. He has been really good as a passer this year, and his exceeded my expectation and has done a lot better of a job than I thought he was going to do, to be completely honest. I didn't know he was going to be able to throw the ball like this, especially with the amount of pressure that we have put on him to throw the football, because like I said in previous episodes, we haven't really changed our identity. We're still kind of doing a lot of the same things that we did with Taulia Tagovailoa, where it's a lot of throwing the ball. We lead the Big Ten in throwing attempts, and we're not running the ball as much, when I thought it was going to be the opposite this year. I thought, okay, Billy Edwards is in at quarterback. We're going to run the football more. We're going to do a lot more quarterback run game. But they haven't really opened that up that much. I feel like you could run a lot of option stuff, a lot of QB power. And when you run the quarterback, you get an extra blocker a lot of times. That's why it can be so effective. I thought you could do a lot of those kind of college quarterback run game stuff that we haven't brought out yet. Maybe a speed option type of thing. But instead, we're throwing the football a million times a game, it feels like. Indiana, 41 attempts. Even Villanova, 32 attempts. UVA, 43 attempts. Michigan State, 34 attempts from Billy Edwards. Like, he's throwing the ball way too much. And I think we can cut like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of those throws and allow Billy Edwards to rush the football. It'll open up so many different things, I believe. One, for the defense, when you play like a guy like Lamar Jackson or something like that, and I'm not saying that's what Billy Edwards is as a rusher, but you have to more than respect his legs. Then in third downs and 3rd and 5s and stuff like that, the defense has to sometimes run a spy. They have to be more concerned about you rushing the ball. They can't run as much man coverage, and there's so many different ways that you can gain an advantage when you have a running quarterback on a lot of third downs, but also other downs as well, where I feel like if we incorporate Billy Edwards' run game, there's a lot of different things, more things that the defense has to worry about. And I'm watching an offense for Maryland football that hasn't been bad, but we still have failed to win 2 big games against Michigan State and Indiana. Indiana, we stalled way too much, and I feel like if Edwards rushed the ball more, if he got things going more on the ground, I feel like we would have a lot better of a chance to be able to win a game like that against Indiana. But because we didn't, because we haven't really rushed the ball as much, because we haven't done as many quarterback run games that we've done in the past with Billy Edwards, we rely a lot on his arm, and his arm is better, but it's not to the point where I'm like, we can just air it out. And imagine this. His arm's gotten better, and we combine the rushing with a better throwing arm, a more accurate arm. That's when Maryland's offense is going to start cooking. And it opens up stuff for the running backs as well, because then the defense has to respect Edwards as a rusher. And it opens up a lot of different things. And so when I look at Billy Edwards as a quarterback, it's like he can be even better than he's been. He's really succeeded my expectations for a guy that we've kind of said, okay, we're playing different football than you're kind of used to. We're just going to let you air it out. If we got some balance going with him, and I'm not saying he's got to run the ball 15 times a game. I'm just saying 5 to 6 or 7 more rushing attempts for Edwards a game. And I'm telling you, that can give him a dual threat ability that can really be special. If you combine kind of what he did rushing the football in the Music City Bowl game and what he's done passing the football this year, could have a really special quarterback. And he's been pretty good. But that's what excites me about Billy Edwards. And I think that we need that extra phase clearly to win games. I think we need a little bit of a boost. I think we need a little bit more. I think we need a little bit something else. Because clearly what we're doing hasn't been enough. And I think coming off the bye week could be a really good time, a really, really, really good time to implement some of those different looks, some of that more quarterback run-centric offense. I'm not saying that has to be the offense or that has to be focused on that. I'm just saying it's something that we should mix in, because right now we haven't enough. And I'm going to be watching closely on Friday. Do the Terps mix that in? And if they don't, I think we're going to continue to just have a little bit of struggles. But if we do, I think we have a chance to be really good. Cam Ward will be the next commit for Maryland basketball. I'll talk about that and what he could bring after this ad. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. There's so many different things that you can bet on right now on FanDuel. Today, the MLB playoffs, if you want to bet on the Yankees series versus the Royals, or if you want to do the Padres versus the Dodgers, you can do that on FanDuel. Or maybe you want to bet on Thursday Night Football where the Seahawks are plus 3.5 and underdogs against a 49ers team. You can do that on FanDuel. And of course, the NBA is coming as well. You got preseason, and hockey is coming too. There's so many different things that you can do on FanDuel. So make sure you guys head over to FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. I think the Terps have their next commit in Cam Ward. Maryland basketball I'm talking about. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk some basketball. The football, it's going to be what it is this year. I'm still unsure of where we're going to be, but this Maryland basketball program this year and what Kevin Willard is building is sneaky some really good stuff. Even with how bad we were last year, I do still think that we have a chance to rebound this year and be a top team in the Big Ten, be a top team in the tournament, and make a run that a lot of people aren't expecting us to kind of make. And so I do think that Maryland basketball can be really good, and to be really good in the future, I think Kevin Willard's doing a really good job at recruiting and everything. But I do want to talk about this kid, Cam Ward, who I think is going to be the next commit for Maryland basketball. I don't know for sure. I'm not 100% on this, but I feel really good about him potentially being the next basketball player. He is out of the DMV area, which is pretty big for us. Of course, that always is an advantage for us. But this kid could be our next commit. Of course, we just landed Christian Jeffrey on October 2nd, so that was pretty recent. The 4-star guard, who looks to be a really solid player, 200 pounds. I love his body type. He's strong. He's college ready. He can do a little bit of everything. I think he still has to work on the 3-point shot, but he has a chance to be a good player for sure for Maryland basketball. And we also have landed Marcus Jackson, who's made a big push in the rankings, top 100 guy, 6'9", athletic, has all the tools in the world to be a really good player. And I think Cameron Ward has a chance to be the highlight of the class and be the next big thing for Maryland basketball, and to make this class a really solid class for Maryland basketball. It looks like he's more of a 4 right now. I guess he's kind of an in-between 3-4, but it looks like he's more of a third, has 4, has plenty of other offers as well, has some really good list of places. He recently put out his top 4, and I think it was Virginia, Michigan State, and Notre Dame were all in there. Right now, On3 has us projected to land Cam Ward, and I feel pretty good about us landing him. Michigan State and Virginia do worry me a little bit, but I do think Maryland's going to win this battle. And he is announcing on October 30th. So we got a couple weeks until he announces. But I do think that the Terps are going to land Cam Ward. I think he's a guy that we really want. I think he's a guy that has a really cool game that I think is something that we're going to that we could really use for the Terps. And I think he's a guy that has a lot of tools, and there's a reason he's a top 55 player in the nation. And like I said, getting some of these guys that are like 50th, 60th, 70th, 40th, that's how you build a really good basketball program. The days of one-and-dones winning are kind of feel like over. Yeah, you can get a one-and-done that's a really good player, or whatever. You can get some of those guys, but that's not how you win in today's college basketball. And I think that's why a lot of people think the college basketball ratings are seem like people don't care as much about it at times and stuff like that. I think is because I think when you look at it, it's like it's obviously a really good product, but a lot of people just don't know the names. And of course, we know the names of the Maryland basketball program and stuff. But I think that when you get some of these guys like a Cam Ward, like a Jeffrey, like a Marcus Jackson that are ranked kind of in the middle of the top 100, that means that they're really talented guys. Like to be rated on that list, to be a top 100 guy, that means you can be a guy that comes in and makes an impact, and a guy that starts potentially right away, a guy that is a really good player. There's different things that can happen when you come in and make that type of, when you're that type of ranked player. And of course, there's underrated guys all the time that fly under the radar that are really good players. But when you're ranked at 50th, 60th range, you have a chance to come in for a while, but also most of those guys aren't one and dones. They're like 2, 3, 4 year types of guys. So you get them a while in your program. That's why I love that we're getting a lot of these guys that are ranked kind of in that area, that 50, 40, 60 area, which I think is a really good spot for us to be. And I think Cam Ward fits that. I think that he's a guy that has a chance to come in and play right away, and I think he's a guy that we probably would want to play right away. And I think he's a really talented type of player. It'll be interesting to see kind of how it comes down and what kind of happens with him. But I do think he's the type of guy that you want on your team and a type of guy that can be really effective for the Terps and can really turn this 2025 class into another really good class by Kevin Willard. Of course, last class I thought was really good in terms of the transfers, and then you bring in Derek Queen, so you feel good about it. But this class has the chance to be a little bit more balanced, and you can get 3 guys that have a chance to come in and play. And of course, you can add in some guys in the portal as well. But I really like kind of how Coach Willard has been recruiting. It feels like every class we've had, except for his very first one where he didn't get a chance to recruit, has been good. Even I always bring up, even the 2023 class, I know was supposed to be better, but the players and the pedigree that they had in terms of where they were rated, in terms of their other offers, were all good, and we're all really good types of players. And so I think we're doing something right. I don't know exactly what it is. When we last year, I was like, after the season ended for Maryland basketball, I was like, and we got their Queen, and we were getting all these different Jacoby Gillespie, Sal McGill, Rodney Rice. I was like, we kept Julian Reese. I was like, what's going on here? Like, is the NIL up? What's going on? And I think that's what it comes down to. I think there must be some NIL stuff going on for Maryland basketball that's helping them out. But I do think that Cameron Ward's going to be the next big commit for us on October 30th. And if we can land him, I love the class. I think you got 3 guys, all kind of, you got a forward, you got a big manish, and you have a guard, which is a really good spot. So you got 3 guys that play different positions that all are going to have the chance to come in and play right away, which I think is all you really want to ask for. Does Maryland rotate their players too much? I'll talk about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Gametime has new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have also super deals, and they are really nice as other tiers of deals. And they have so many different things. You can customize your spot and the supplemental as inspiration. It's a really nice deals over on Gametime. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and etc. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. What time is it? Game time. So I read something before the game. Someone asked a question about rotating players and if Coach Locksley does it too much. And I've always been in the belief that, yes, Maryland football rotates their guys too much. When I watch a lot of the top programs, like in Alabama, like a Georgia, those types of teams, they don't play 50 million guys. They don't play a ton of different guys. Obviously, programs at different spots, programs with a little bit more talent. But this is what I kind of come up with for Maryland. They want to keep kids. They don't want to lose guys in the portal. And so they're going to play a lot of different guys. They like to develop guys, Coach Locksley says, so they're going to play young guys. But this is my only problem. There's certain positions where it's like, are we trying to win the game or are we trying to develop young guys? I think corner is probably the biggest one, the one that comes to mind the most. Offensive line a little bit too, but I don't feel like we rotate as much. Receiver a bit, but we play kind of our guys at the receiver position. The big one is the corner spot, as well as the linebacker room too. And so Coach Locksley basically said, that's kind of what we are as a program. That's kind of the culture. We're going to play a lot of different guys. I think he's specifically talking about the secondary. We're going to play a lot of different guys. Our tendency to do that isn't going to change. We're going to keep playing different corners. We're going to keep trying to get the young guys in there to develop those types of guys. But I'm telling you guys, that is annoying. When I watch some of these other programs, they don't play 4 or 5 corners in a game where you feel like you got to win the game. They play 2. They play their best 2 guys. And so my problem is like, are we trying to win the game or are we trying to develop guys? And at the end of the day, I know it's important and we kind of feel like we have a developmental room in there and we have young guys that are really talented and things like that. And the linebacker room too plays a lot of different guys. But to me, I'm like, eventually it feels like we got to know maybe the first couple games, maybe you do that against UConn, maybe you do that against some of your lesser points. But eventually we got to know who our best 2 guys are and put those 2 guys on the field and let's try and win the game instead of playing 4 or 5 different guys and rotating different guys in and out and not letting anyone get comfortable, not letting anyone get full confidence. Everyone kind of probably playing on a string because they feel like, oh, it might get pulled. I might get pulled if I don't make this play or whatever. Guys are overthinking out there. If you just play 2 guys and say, you're our starters, you've earned it, you've been our best guys so far. And I don't care if those are young guys, older guys, that's where I don't care. But the thing that I care about is we're playing so many different players, it feels like, in your corner room, in your linebacker room. Those are really the main 2. Defensive line, I want us to rotate. You want to rotate, keep guys fresh. Receiver, we play Ty and Caden, it feels like pretty much the whole game. That's why I know I'm like, at receiver, we're not really doing it, though. So that's why I'm trying to, like, figure it out. I'm like, is this, like, what is this? Like, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to keep kids or are we trying to win games? Because eventually you got to try and win some games. And I feel like that's kind of hurt us. Against Michigan State, I thought it hurt us. We're trying to get these young guys reps, and it's like, yeah, we need to get these guys reps. I'm not saying the older guys have looked great either, but it's like eventually we got to try and win the game. And that's something that I think that as a program, that's one of my biggest critiques is just playing so many different guys. And some programs get away with it, but there's positions, that groups that like you don't really want to do it against. And I understand if you're up by 30 points, I'm all for getting the young guys reps. But when you're not and you're in a battle against Indiana, I don't want to see a 4th or 5th string corner just because he's a highly talented young recruit come in the game if he's not ready yet. That's my problem, or hasn't shown on film that he's ready yet. And so I kind of walk this line where I'm like, are we developing guys or are we trying to win games? Like, where are we kind of trying to do? Is this a rebuilding year? Like, what are we trying to do? And they've done it in the past with other position groups. The linebacker room always seemed to be one I was like, why is Jason Barham coming off the field? He's our most talented player. So there was different things like that where I was like, I just didn't understand because it doesn't feel like it should be that way. to be like, I feel like you play your best players. If you need to make a switch, you make a switch if a guy's not playing well, but you can't just keep doing in and out type of things. But that's how Mike Locksley likes to do it. That's how he thinks is best. So that's probably how it's going to be, but I really don't like it. Let me know what you guys think. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.